Are we on? Are we
I
live?
mean, it's recording, but we haven't started. I got an
Oh,
intro
okay.
song and
Oh,
everything.
okay.
So we got,
Okay.
don't let the timer on the screen freak you out, but when it gets to 0, you will die.
I knew it.
About
This
yourselves
is
a
where you
little
get
bit.
all the nerves out and you're just like chilling.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretend like you're not super nervous and
Boom!
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Maybe I should have put.
Welcome to the St. John Alive podcast, where we are sharing stories of faith and bringing discipleship to life here in Fenton. This is going to be part 2 of our Catholic Dad's Life episode, and we are joined again today by Jonathan Eastlick, Rob Tukoski, and Sarah Smith, and we're diving into a brief conversation about the complementarity of man and woman, and it's pretty awesome. So here it is. Check it out.
Kind of going back to the original, that study. I'm hitting this. But like the women's group has been great for Katie, and she would say it. She was here. I know that she was hesitant at first, and I feel like I had a play in terms of trying to push her to go, and it was kind of selfish in the sense that if you're going, then I will go. Like, I will continue to be involved. I need you to be involved. And it's been really good for her. And it's amazing how in a married life, right, as if you have two people striving for holiness, you just kind of feed off of each other, right? It's like, when I'm feeling a little cool, you're hot. When you're feeling a little cool, I'm hot, and it's kind of, that's marriage, right? It's striving for holiness. So the marriage, the small group, I know that for me, she's said to me like, hey, I think that small group is good for you. The retreats and everything, like, that's good for you, and vice versa. I mean, she has nothing. She'll every time Sarah's like, "Oh, we're not going to have small group this week," she's like, "God, I gotta get away from these kids. I want to meet. I want to see the women." So it's been really cool to see that. That's, to me, that's the church life is fellowshipping together, coming together, and putting on weddings or whatever. That's awesome.
Something to say about that, like meeting with your friends is like kind of meeting with your friends, but like getting together with a group.
Yeah, meeting with
and,
friends for a
like,
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and like just to go there and talk about God or talk about
Right.
church life or talk about whatever is, kind of get some of that off your chest and kind of is good fellowship,
It kind of, back to your, like I was going to say a second ago, back to your original thought with the study and the survey, geez, forgive me if I say some hot takes, but I have this theory that, I've heard before, which was, women, so man was created first, right? In Genesis, you have Adam, and he's created, and what did Adam have to do to occupy his time? Name the animals, right? And there was no other people there, so it was just Adam. A bunch of science projects, really. It's just like, like Rob.
I've never heard that take on scripture.
But like
Adam and a bunch of science projects.
But it's like if Rob was by himself, how many buses would be converted to RVs by now?
Probably none. No.
But like, it's just projects, and men can kind of definitely get into their own world. It's kind of like Adam was created in the world of abstractions. Okay. Eve was created from Adam's rib, but looking at Adam, it was kind of like the first thing she saw was Adam. So her first experience of reality was other people. So it's, in some ways, it's like, someone once said to me that, it's like the world is man's domain, man is women's domain, and so what's really good is, like, without I don't think men's relationships would be the same with other people without women in their lives. And then sometimes men are the ones that really push the larger, I don't want to say larger ideas, but the more abstract things. So it's like I know at my house, I'll be like, you know what? Let's start. You know what? We need more Jesus in our life. We need more Jesus. We need some Holy Spirit juice, and I won't do anything with it. I'm just like we need that. But Katie takes that and then turns it into reality within the home. Right now we have decorations of Lent. Right now we have these things because I'm fleshing out these ideas of, okay, these are the things we want, and then I feel like the women in my life are the motivators, or who are like the catalysts of actually these things happen, because they're able to take these things, and so what the study, like why would that affect children, is because you have the imminent, and then you have where am I going with this? But
its impact on the raising
right,
of children.
but it's like men with their children. A lot of times we come home from work, and women, obviously, women work just as much as men these days. But men come home from work and they live in this world that's like out there, and they come back and they give all this information to their kids, and that's one of their greatest resources for like men. They give this information that they're out in the world, and this is how you deal with the world, and you have to take these ideas. You're going to be dealing with all these ideas out in the world, and you have to like do it now. And so you have to be a just person. We talk in those terms, men. We got to live in holiness. Well, what does that mean? A lot of times that we look to women for that. Like, what is holiness? Like look at these holy women, right? But the spur, like men tend to spur that conversation a lot, and at least in my life, that men are always the ones who are like, no, like go out and conquer. I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it means like we kind of plow through walls, plow through barriers,
right.
But like the wife is always next to us, kind of like, no, you should probably go this way through.
Right.
Think
about the casualties. Think about the casualties.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. they're the thing, like, sane thought.
Right. They it's like they can take all these experiences that men are having out there, and they put faces to it.
Even like I'll have stuff and I'll bring it home and I'll just be like, I don't even know what happened today. And 5 minutes with my wife, she's like, this is what happened. All right. You met Joe, and then this, and
Yep.
like this is what he was saying. And that I'm like, I never even thought about that,
Right.
In the 2 hours of driving today, I'd just blank, just can't A to B,
That's Genevieve and I all the way. Like, I'll come home and I'm frustrated about whatever, and I'm just venting, and she's like, well, you realize this is what's really going on, right? And I'm like, no, you're overthinking it. And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, oh my gosh, you were totally right.
Yeah,
Absolutely makes
seriously.
sense. No, there's a super important balance there that has definitely been formative in my life, right? Like, in fact, Sarah and I were just talking about this earlier when we had a general discussion about men's and women's ministry, and we were talking about most of the influences in my development of the virtue of chastity have not been from other men, right? I know we talked about iron sharpening iron the other night, and like, bolstering each other up, but it's actually the inspiration of other good and holy women and those friendships that I had with them that I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be the type of guy that's worthy of this friendship or worthy of a relationship with a woman like this later on. And it wasn't always, because I'm talking like high school, college. So it wasn't always like relationship seeking, relationships. It was just good and holy friends that I had that I was like, oh my gosh, these women were truly inspiring. So,
yeah, the holiest. I mean, hands down for me, the holiest people I've ever met have been women within the church, who I look at, and it's like, man, they're like a reflection of Mary. Just get things done, are able to just like manifest just the ideas, but it so right on board with that statement.
yeah, absolutely. There's a super
And
key balance there.
Yeah, I think just with like men, we got so much stuff, I guess. Maybe not so much going on in our heads, but
Right.
a lot of like different input and kind of the same thing that you were saying. It's just like you run into so many different things during the day, and then it's just like they mold it into something. Even if like you're not married and you just have a good group of friends, and there's those couple of women that you talk to in the group, and they just like emulate, like you said, Mary, you know?
Right.
It just kind of grounds you and brings
Yeah,
you
and
back to, like, I want to be a better man or a better father so that I could be either maybe you date that
Sure.
lady someday, or like, you know, live up to the expectations
Sure.
of your wife, you know?
Mhm.
'Cause
Yeah.
she's the one that is always like, you know, keep me on the straight and narrow. So,
Yeah, it's like I want to be a more virtuous man so I can live up to the kind of person my wife deserves,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And kind of this legacy we're building together. You know, I want to be the kind of man that has actually something to give to them.
An example for your children.
Sure. Yeah, not just an example for my children, but my children's children. You know, like I'm for me personally, I'm constantly thinking about that, which is
legacy part of it.
yeah, the whole legacy,
Absolutely.
because it's like, you know, I'm going to die.
What?
You know, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're going to die. And I think about death a lot. We're just about to get real morbid.
But that's like
Is it because you're doing the catechism year right now?
No, no,
and we're in
that's-
that part of the catechism?
Yeah, no. It's just it's always been death has always been a really big I don't know, the concern, but like it's just kind of fascinating in the sense that we're gonna die someday and it doesn't feel like it.
you always think there's going to be one more day, or
Right,
you know,
like one more day, but it could be, you know, at some point. So I'm always thinking about, okay, how am I living where, you know, I don't want to be the situation where, you know, I'm not giving my best, and then my kids inherit something that they wouldn't want to give to their children someday. And I think so much grief and animosity that comes within families starts with a dad that's not trying to live a virtuous life.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, because you got to keep on that road, because as soon as you stray off, then those kids instantly pick up on
They
it.
pick up on it
Yeah, that's
because
something that-
they looked go ahead, Rob, go.
No, I just me and my wife were talking the other day, and I have a problem of like intercepting in between her and the kids
Yeah,
a lot. I just like kind of, when we first came in here, I'm not like real great with like, you know, confrontation, even though I handle it well, but I just don't like it. So I think
Right.
like mine's like, we're done, you know, like let's move on. She's like, no, you need to support me in this.
yeah,
And we need to be a united front, and like, so that's something I've been kind of trying to work with. But you know, if you don't have that united front, then you don't really have anything
Right.
with your kids, you know. And I think there's a
Right.
lot of pressures that are put on dads and just men in general to live up to this certain expectation, and it's like you try to always attain it, but like it's an unattainable thing,
right,
and like there's not much praise, or like, I don't want to say that I need the praise, but it's nice to hear it sometimes. And I don't think like, John, you're a great dad. Like, you're doing good. You know, like,
you're not at my house. You don't know that.
but the couple of times in church when like,
Yeah.
you know, other dads, right? Older dads come up to you and they're like, wow, your kids are doing great up there. You know, you like, I
Right.
love your family, all that stuff. It's just like really sinks
Yeah,
in,
it does.
you know?
Yeah, it was.
I definitely remember that guy's name when he introduces himself.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, for me, like, I was a daddy's girl. So I love how Rosalie snuggles up against you at Mass.
Yeah.
Because that makes me, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
I would have snuggled up to my dad. And I also was that kid that crawled under the pews to get to grandparents. But yeah, I was the hellion and I was the cute one too.
yeah.
Lindsay always gives me a hard time because, like, Rosalie, so she's 6. She'll be 6. And I hate to use this, but, like, her love language, whatever the kids are saying these days, is, like, hitting and punching me. My wife's like, you got to stop that. Just give her a hug. So I've just been trying to, like, hug her more. So that's probably part of that. But she's a tough little cookie. You know? Very emotional, but tough.
Love language is not. It's not physical touch. It's physical violence.
Yeah.
Maria's
And
a
I don't even know where
scrapper,
she gets
too.
that from.
But she's
I mean, her-
also the
her
one
older
that
sister's
gets you
in
a
wrestling,
donut
but-
too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Her
she's
older
very
sisters
caring.
are in wrestling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah,
Awesome.
through the winter. So
That's
Wrestling's
cool.
a
It's
lot
good.
of fun.
it gets you through the winter fast. Like every weekend and practices and
How did that?
suggest
Sorry,
it.
this is going to be a kind of a sidetrack. But how did you guys determine?
because originally we were gonna sign them up for cheerleading,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently in Lake Fenton that's impossible to get your kids into cheerleading. So I said, all right, we're gonna do some type of physical activity. The wrestling flyer came home. We're like, we're gonna do wrestling. You know, it was just like a chance thing that it came home, and we signed them up. And the oldest daughter, she's like, I don't want to ever do this again. But like when you get her there, she just loved it.
Yeah.
And then the youngest daughter's like, I love doing this. But then sometimes she would be like, just, flop around and not like give her full effort. So it was good. It was, I always wanted to get him like karate or something like that, but that turned
Yeah.
out to be super expensive.
Yeah.
Karate's tough,
Wrestling's a good,
man.
get him into sports thing,
It's crazy. You
Plus, they
went
learn
for
the
cheerleading
interaction
and came out
between-
with the wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling. The interaction between boys, girls, and, because we did
Yeah.
all girls wrestling, but they also did boys wrestling too. Plus, we got Dale into it as well.
Yep.
So he joined later and he really loved it. So,
Yeah, because we went to watch those girls play, and he's just like, "Oh my gosh, I need to get involved in this." He's like, "Mom, can I sign up for this?" And I'm like, "I don't know what to ask." So we joined in like 2/3 into the season.
Dale reminds me a lot of myself because he's high energy and just like not really super focused, but like when he gets in tune with it, he can really go for it. So
Yeah.
I like that for him,
Yeah, that kid. What was it? He set a record or something, didn't he? In a recent tournament, or at the tournament, he had the record for fastest pin
In his age bracket,
in his
yeah.
age bracket. Yeah, that's
13
pretty cool.
seconds.
It's awesome.
That's like, when you apply the principles, just like when you apply the principles of going to church every
Right.
week, it's just a rhythm and you don't even have to think about it. It's muscle memory,
Yeah. I mean, that's 100% true. I mean, that's sports analogies and war analogies are some of the most common themes throughout
Yeah.
Scripture.
Yep.
So it's like training like an athlete. You have to do the same thing in your faith life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that was the big thing in the military is muscle memory. Like your body would react to something without
Right.
even because a lot of times you're going to react, like your body will react before
Yeah.
your brain does, and you're just kind of like doing stuff. So if you don't keep that rhythm and
Yep.
going to church every Saturday or Sunday, then you kind of fall off track.
Slow is smooth.
Yeah. Smooth as fast, right?
Yep.
Well, that is going to be a wrap on this episode on our Catholic Dad's Life. And we hope you enjoyed the conversation. Big shout out to Jonathan Eastlick, Rob Tukoski, and Sarah Smith for joining us. Thank you all for your time. We hope you enjoyed watching and listening. And don't forget to check us out this next week as we have our Director of Music and Liturgy join us here in the studio. It's Freeman Tucker talking about our youth choir and everything else, all the other cool stuff that goes on up in the choir loft during Mass. And the importance of his ministry to our efforts in discipleship and our mission in discipleship here as a parish community. So tune in for that next week, and we will see you in the next one. Have a great week.